and welcome back to another episode of the Jake Williams Show, episode 35. I'm going to do an interview this week. It's going to be something a little bit different than the usual interviews I usually do. It's pretty fun, and I'm very excited for you guys to hear it. A good friend of mine came through and wants to talk about his cider business, and I'm very excited for you guys to hear it. So go ahead and check it out, and see you on the other side. I am joined here by... Now, this is going to be really funny for you.
You go for it.
Ramsey.
Yes.
I've never once had to pronounce your last name.
Okay.
Is it AhSam?
No.
AhSam?
Yes.
AhSam. Okay.
AhSam.
AhSam.
Yes.
That's the way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Ramsey. I would say very integral in the story of my life because you were kind of the reason Ashley and I met. So
Just a little.
We won't go any further.
No. Maybe for another interview in the future, but not this one.
We had your classic sangria.
Yes.
So
Almost definitely.
Oh yeah. Which should be a flavor.
Yeah.
For Sacrilegious Ciderworks.
Oh, it will be.
His business, selling cider, slinging the cider.
Getting it done.
In Glenwood, Iowa. So I got to ask, though, the name, Sacrilegious Ciderworks.
Yeah.
Why sacrilegious? Because that's a negative thing when you say sacrilegious to people.
Right. To the normal person, sacrilegious is something that goes against the grain when it comes to anything that's Christian or has Christian values to it. But that history is not set in stone for my business. So when I started my business, it was me and Dan Cater, my former business partner, and we tried to come up with something that fit the mold of the way that I made my cider. And it was very much, I had a basis of knowledge for classic styles of making hard apple cider as well as Iowa wine, but I was kind of bored of it. I didn't want to do the same old. So we came up with this idea that all of our ciders will be a little bit different, a little bit on the edge, a little crazy, and use crazy ingredients, as well as the style of making it. So we wanted to get that kind of components, as well as our marketing tactics and everything about my business to be embodied into one or two words. So we came up first with Pagan Ciderworks. Pagan was the original Sacrilegious Ciderworks name, but we thought that was a little too rough around the edges.
Yeah. I mean, you're already kind of... A little negative sounding with the sacrilegious.
Right. So then we started doing a little bit of research, whether it was Wikipedia or went into a little bit of Greek mythology. Outside of Christian values, we tried to go even further back in history. And sacrilegious, or even sacrilege, has its ties to killing your leader. So that was my purpose, is to try and take down other brands of hard apple cider that I won't talk about in this interview that we want to overpower when it comes to the Midwest market, when it, Nebraska and Iowa. I want to take over all of the locations that have other domestic ciders on draft. And so that's where sacrilegious came to being, is that there was either a traditional value to the way you made it or a traditional cider that you see on draft. And our voice is to flip it on its head.
So you kind of already answered this, but
yeah.
Your family has a vineyard.
Absolutely.
You have Fine Street Cellars,
right.
Glenwood, Iowa. I don't know the address, but
yeah,
if you're in Glenwood, you've probably already been
right.
So, what made you say, okay, I don't want to do wine anymore. I want to go to cider. I want to try something different. Is it just that you wanted to strike it out on your own?
Well, a little bit of the background is that I went to Iowa State with our mutual friend, Miss Ashley, over there in the corner. And
I know who she is. I've mentioned her on the show.
Everyone knows Ashley. Ashley's the best in the world. So I went to school for horticulture. So my history is in grape growing, all other types of horticultural crops like apples. I did a lot of floriculture, so flowers, and arboriculture. So my history is all different types of fruit crops. And so going to Iowa State and learning all those kinds of things is that grapes have very much a tie to the land. And so that means you're kind of limited to making grape wine for that kind of section. Whereas cider, it's not necessarily bound to certain types of areas. You can have it from different types of part of the world or even different styles. And so when I started getting into craft beer, they have all different kinds of styles, but it really doesn't depend on the area of the world you're at. As long as you have the creativity and the power, that's where I wanted it. I did not want to be constrained by certain parts of the Midwest. So if that's kind of answering your question, I know it's getting all the way around.
Well,
it,
yeah, but
yeah.
I think it does, and I think it, the idea that, I mean, it just goes back to the name, right?
Yeah.
It's, kill your leaders,
Right,
do
right,
it do it
exactly.
your own way,
Mm-hmm.
kind of pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, which I can respect, because
Yeah.
it would be very easy just to work with your dad and,
Yep.
make wine the
Right.
rest of your life, which
Same old.
nothing against it.
Right. I wanted something for myself. I would say that's another portion, but I mean, I
It's
wanted
very
to,
millennial of you.
It is very millennial of me. God, I just don't want to get lumped into everything.
Here's the problem that I run in with that. When people
Okay.
say that about millennials, I don't
Right.
they make it seem like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I guess it has negative connotations again, if you want to lump it into that whole
Right.
sacrilegious types of things. But it's not only that I want to do things my way, but I want to make my own money. I want it to be my own, coming from my own heart, my own soul, to be imprinted on my own business.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is definitely very millennialistic of me.
Well, you want to even go further cliche. If you don't want it to sound millennial, it's just
Right.
like it's the American dream.
It is.
You build it up
is.
by yourself.
Absolutely. Starting from the bottom and then getting all the way to
Now
the
we're here?
apple. No, please don't. No, I tried to go around that.
You led me
thanks.
right to it.
Thanks,
You
thanks.
led the horse to the water.
had to.
You can't expect him not to drink it. You know what I mean?
Fine. If I have to.
So this is something interesting, because we had this conversation before.
Mhm.
I want to say it was last week. You went, and I didn't even know about this. This shows you
Right.
how little I know about this
Okay.
world, and this is why it's fun for me, because I can learn more about this. So you went to like a cider school,
Yeah.
right? And you were taught by a very well-renowned person in the cider world. Can
Right.
you tell me about that?
Yeah, I took a short class after. Okay, so let's move it backwards. So even while I was at Iowa State, I was attending what's called cider conventions or CiderCon. I attended.
There's a cider convention?
Yeah, there is, and every year it's in a different location. That's kind of holstered to certain areas of the U.S. So Chicago is a huge area, Maryland, and then Portland. So they kind of rotate between those, as well as another separate event called the Cider Summit, and that's where they do a lot of competitions, tastings, very similar to like wine competitions. So there's different aspects of it that are more matching craft beer or wine. And so I was educating myself by trying to delve myself into the industry, even though I knew nothing about it. And so by talking to people in the industry, whether it's, let's see, Cider Boys are a great inspiration for me. Angry Orchard was a great inspiration for me because I got to meet those guys, the actual head cider makers or some of the investors and the owners, so they can give me that background. So they kind of led me and my dad to search who they learned from, and so they learned from a guy from England, and he is the primary like cider guy when it comes to quality assurance of hard apple cider in the United Kingdom. So his name is Peter Mitchell. And he does classes, I think, once a year or once every 2 years at Cornell University in New York. So I drove 21 hours up to Cornell University along the Finger Lakes, and yeah, took this class. And there was guys from New Belgium, from Angry Orchard, I think from Big Fish Cider, all the way from the Canada, Mexico, everywhere. And they learned from this guy that you could basically make cider from a bucket of water
And some
sugar
apples.
and acid. I mean, apples are very basic as opposed to grapes. Grapes have the tannins, the seeds, and the stems that add a lot of components to it, whereas apples are very basic. So you have to grow those specific varieties of apples. And he was teaching me all these kinds of things. We went into the lab and did analysis of different portions of the cider, and we went through the whole plethora of things. So learning all those things from an expert and a master contributed to the style of cider that I'm making, for sure.
This is gonna sound really silly
Go
to me
for it.
because I don't know anything about
That's
this.
okay.
So you have different flavors of
Right.
apples based on color, right? So
Sometimes, yeah. For
so
sure.
do you have to pick like you just kind of said, you have to pick a certain apple for what sort of flavor you want to use, or is it more of a
Sometimes.
catch-all kind of thing?
So for cider making in a classical sense, again, I was saying that apples in general are very basic. So if you go to the grocery store, you'll find maybe a gala apple, and that's very mostly on the sweet side. So when I call an apple sweet, it's classified as a dessert apple, which means that it has a high sugar content, a low acid, and a low tannin level. If there's lots of sugar, that means that sugar can be converted into alcohol. That's it. That means it doesn't have much complexity to it. The other three categories of apples that you need are Sharps, which are high acid, low sugar, low tannins. And then you also have bitter sharps, which are high bitter, high acid, and then bitter sweets, which are high acid, high bitter. If you can kind of combine all 4 of those categories together, you can make a very well-rounded cider. Whereas with grapes, you can have those single varietals, like a Cabernet Sauvignon is made out of 100% or close of Cabernet Sauvignon. It's very hard to make a cider out of one specific apple. So yes, it does contribute to the color, the tannins, the acidity, the sugar.
So
as
it's
well
kind
as,
of an amalgamation.
right,
of
exactly,
all that,
for
all that
sure. But
stuff.
when it comes to color, doesn't really matter. You won't get much color besides. There are some that have a pink core, and you can get some pink rosé-like flavors or colors to it, as well as you can use grape skins if you want to use natural colorants, or sometimes you have to use dyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really getting into the weeds. I like
Oh
it.
yeah, most
I'm
definitely.
learning a lot.
Specifics. That's what we're doing. All types of
If
specifics.
there's anything that
Yeah.
you're good at, it's the details.
Yeah, most
So,
definitely. Thank you.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
I yeah. So you kind of already did that, but kind of when you're making a new batch,
Yes.
trying to think of a flavor.
Yep.
What's usually your process with that?
I love to get inspiration from every single portion of my life, whether it's my environment, what's close to me, what's outside of my comfort zone, or something that brings back childhood memories.
Is that
But
with grandma's
grandma's butter cookie. Oh yeah, if I go back to my grandma's house, it could be sewing materials or it could be cookies in those blue Danish tins. That's what I went for, grandma's butter cookie.
That's exactly what crossed my mind.
Right,
when,
exactly.
when I drank it.
When people think of that, I mean, that's what I want, that to have a calling back to certain memories, because man, it's just it makes you want to keep drinking it.
Yeah.
But I guess for most of my recent flavors, since I've made about 35 different flavors, I want inspiration from people as opposed to places or things. So instead of going back to memories, I ask people and say, hey, what's something that makes it very personalized to you? What makes it distinct? So, for example, I went to El Bait Shop downtown Des Moines and talked to their manager, Teresa, and I said, so what's something that is not only for El Bait Shop that we can make, but something that's more of like a Teresa-style cider? And that's where we came up with a churro style. So it's very cinnamon, vanilla, apple, and then it has different types of baking spices in it, like nutmeg and cinnamon and cloves to it. So it has a little bit of well-roundedness to it, not just aroma but body too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like a pie type thing.
Absolutely.
That's the vibe I'm getting. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah,
I
it's
need
like
to.
apple strudel, maybe like a toaster strudel, or like those
Yeah.
apple pies that you get from McDonald's.
Oh, like a turnover.
Yes, that's
Apple turnover.
exactly what it tastes like. It's awesome.
Ashley's tried it. I have
Yes.
not. She's in the background telling me it's very good.
So I mean, that's like the inspiration when it comes to my flavor making. When it first started, I was just kind of blank. I wanted to make an original dry cider that matched everyone else's with a little bit of a twist to it. It could have a bourbon barrel age or a little bit of hops, but now it's just I want to go everywhere and anything. I want the alcohol to be high. I want to add bourbon to it to fortify it, or do half and half with some maybe honey or mead to make it a sizer. Anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most. It's smart because it really does set your brand apart. Because whenever I've helped with tastings or been there for tastings, it's the most interesting thing, and I think it's probably more fun for you just to see the reactions to it, because I'm sure you probably just. I don't think you do this because, again, I think you're a very calculated person, but I'm sure there are times where you're like, well, these two shouldn't go together, but let's see if it does.
Right,
Let's
exactly.
just kind of do that.
For sure. I mean, they have some type of basis in, like, let's say strawberry basil. That's very salad oriented. So some people have this calling back to salad, but other people, it's just like, it's refreshing. It reminds me of springtime. So yeah, sometimes it does not make sense, but it works. It definitely works where you pair the flavor on your taste buds with the aroma in your nostrils. So yeah, definitely makes sense.
I was trying to. I called it. It's sea breeze, right?
Seafoam.
Seafoam. God, I was thinking of sea breeze. I call it seafood at one time. I can't get that name down. But the seafoam sparkle.
Mm-hmm.
Very popular.
Yep.
Not just because of the taste,
right?
But because there's actual edible sparkles in it.
Edible glitter.
Was that a choice not only just on what you would like, but it was more of a choice because, I mean, let's be honest, when you think of cider, you
Right.
think more female, right?
Yeah.
Somebody would think, ooh, that looks neat. I want to try that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I didn't come up with that. It was my friend, one of our best brand ambassadors. Her name is Ariel Ramos. I've known her since about 3rd grade, and she's helped out with my brand since we started. Or I think we've been brainstorming this for 4 or 5 years. I guess that's kind of the history in terms of like building the brand as a whole, and she helped us start it. So I dedicated this cider to her. She's still around. It's not like she's passed or anything. Like I don't want
I
to
was
say
gonna
it in
say,
that way.
You're
Yeah.
saying it in a very
No, no.
fast.
She came up with it. She was my inspiration for it, and since her name is Ariel, she's the Little Mermaid, and that's why it's the Siren Seafoam Sparkles. Her favorite flavor profile is cotton candy, blueberry, and pomegranate. So we combined those 3 in certain, like we did lots of tests when it came to the higher in the cotton candy or lower in the blueberry, whatever it made, and then she came up with the color. It has to be very like not nice mermaid, like an evil mermaid. So that's where it was like the siren that calls you to the ocean and pulls you under.
And you still got that green,
Very green, murky,
look to it. So it adds to it. Yeah, I love that. There's so much more to it than just flavor. There's a lot more, personality, and you're doing it. I mean, you have your cousin to help you, but in terms of flavors, all this stuff, it's mostly just you, right?
Mhm.
I'm amazed I got you down to do an interview because you're a very busy guy.
I'm not that busy. I'm just
You've been up here. What? We're recording on a Thursday.
Yeah.
How many times have you been here this week?
Twice.
And how many times last week?
3.
And you live 2 hours away.
Right. Yeah. I guess.
I'm just saying, you're putting a lot of miles on there.
Almost definitely.
I appreciate it though. You got to pound the pavement.
I have to.
You got to keep doing that.
Right.
So you said it was like 4 or 5 years, right? Was the plan. So, and the business has been running for over a year now.
Right. January 2017 that's our opening date.
So what has been like the most eye-opening experience for you from conception to actual production?
In terms of eye-opening, you want pros, cons? What do you want?
Everything.
Everything?
The good and the bad. You got to have both.
My God. I don't even know where to start. Like
okay. Let's just narrow it down this way.
Yeah.
How did you feel? Because I was there for the launch event, right?
Right.
How were you feeling after that? After you said, okay, I finally did it. I've launched it. We're making the product. It's out. Everybody can try it. It's for public consumption. What were kind of the things that were going through your head, if you can remember?
I was absolutely drowning in the weeds since we hadn't slept for 3 days. We produced probably around 3,000 gallons over a span of 3 days in terms of kegging it and getting it ready for everyone for the launch party. So I was pretty drained that day, those 2 days. So this was a Saturday release and a Sunday release. And that whole week prior, we were putting up banners and flyers and posting stuff on the internet. But I would say relieved.
Yeah.
That was the best feeling of this is real. Lots of realization, like, okay, it's not only real, but I have to keep this going. So it's a runaway train at this point because there was a huge amount of popularity with it. It filled a void in our winery because a lot of our wines were very classically made. This kind of I think it felt like it was, let's see, the trendy millennial style of cider like I had hoped for. And so we had a lot of younger kids coming in, freshly 21 to younger 30-year-olds, which we usually don't have. Our clientele at the winery is between 40 and 55.
I was going to say, because I was back in Omaha a couple weeks ago for Luke's wedding. You guys know I've mentioned Luke before. And we went on an afternoon, and you could definitely tell the difference. And you could tell the people that were drinking Sacrilegious, and you could tell the people that were just drinking the regular wine, because there is a huge age gap there.
Absolutely. So I mean, just to start, after we finished that weekend, we had to regroup. We had to take our time to set down. Like, we set the whole team together. It was me and my business partner at the time. It was my family. It was our accountants, and we were just trying to figure out this plan of action. What are we going to do? So our plan of action was to get going on production to make sure we're all good to go, and then go attack the market. We were attacking Omaha. We were trying to attack Council Bluffs and try and get into as many draft lines as possible, and sign on with a distributor to make sure that that could be delivered. Because I mean, we're so close to Omaha that was our plan, and we did a pretty good job our first year to at least pay the bills and get it going.
So it seems like this year is more of a focus to go into central Iowa.
Yeah, I
And
mean the switch over from Nebraska to Iowa is just because there's more cideries popping up on the Nebraska side, so it's super competitive. And me being on my own, I feel like I can approach a lot more Iowa brand bars and restaurants more efficiently, effectively, without having as much competition. Because once you go over the border, it's like, in my opinion, if I owned a restaurant or bar, I would want a more of a Nebraska product, regardless of how the distance.
right, and you might look at it this way too, somebody might go with a bigger brand or
Right.
something like that. So
Yeah.
and I've noticed, I think that's what really works for you, is
Yeah.
because the tastings and the things that I've been to, they've been smaller type events, but I think that adds so much, because you don't necessarily get to meet the people that make the booze that you like.
Yeah, it's mostly like reps or brand ambassadors or
And so that adds so much more personality to the
most
product.
definitely. Yeah.
And I think that definitely helps you. So
Yeah.
would you say it was like you had this big school project, it was like your final,
Yep.
you did it, and then instead of summer break, you're like, oh yeah, I got to keep doing
Yep.
this.
Time to go to grad school, time to go to get my master's, my doctorate, and then it just never stops.
You're like, oh, this is adulthood. This is like running a business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's real. It's comes to accounting and making sure that my marketing is on point, learning the social media stuff. I think last April is when we started making tap handles, because we only had enough tap handles for our winery. So as we started getting accounts in Omaha, we needed to have the tap handles to be associated with each bar and restaurant. So to save costs, we went to our local community college, Metro Community College, at the Fort location, and they have this program where you can pay $20 a month and use their facilities. So they taught us how to use CNC machines and laser cutters and plasma cutters to efficiently. I think we cut our costs down to about $4 a tap handle. I mean, as opposed to if you went online, you probably have to spend between $30 and $40 for just like a blank, easy piece of like pine. And we're using oak and maple and customizing them. We learned how to use like graphic design art, so I know how to use Photoshop, Illustrator, and Corel. So everything is all handmade when it comes to those products that would cost me an arm and a leg, which I couldn't afford at the time. So yeah, especially everything that we've been doing is learning and struggling and drowning.
But is you say struggling and
Yeah.
like all the stress that comes with it.
Oh, most
That's still the
definitely.
most exciting part.
It
right?
is. It shows you how much you can actually do if you test your limits.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you keep doing these things that and it shows you how much you love it.
Yeah.
Because the things that you're talking about,
Mhm.
I know from a different angle what that's
Right.
like. Because I
Mhm.
mean, I've been podcasting on and off for like 4 or 5 years, and I know all about. We're like, well, I had to teach myself how to use Photoshop. I had to teach myself what's going to work social media. I got to
Right.
have a picture to get more people to notice it.
definitely.
Little things like that.
Yep, I'm there with you.
But that's the most fun, I think.
is.
And there's nights where I'm up all night and I'm
Yeah.
still working on something.
Right.
I'll go to one job, my regular job,
Right.
come home and do the
Mhm.
work there. But I love that there's still that drive with small businesses
Yeah.
now, because you're seeing more and more corporations and bigger brewing companies and stuff like that. So having something smaller and more personal, I think there's still a market for it.
There is.
And there's still people that want to
Most definitely.
try it out. I had another question and it slipped my mind. I'm just enjoying the
It's okay.
conversation.
I know. Let's just take it casually. I
You know,
mean,
just
like,
keep talking.
yeah, the biggest thing, I guess, if I were talking to someone opening their own business,
Oh, you're giving advice? Okay, let's do it.
that was the main thing. Is like, make sure you do your homework, talk to people within your industry, and really know what your team is made out of before you build your team officially. So it's like whether or not it's your family that you're dealing with, make sure you're ready to go, that everything is professional. When I'm saying talk to your industry members, like ask them honestly, like make it seem like you're a dum dum. Be like, how do you do this? And I mean, in my industry of cider, beer, and wine, they are very open to questions because they're like, even though you asked me this question, I give you this answer that's very honest. I doubt that you'll be able to do it the same way that I can.
Right.
And that's the best part, is that there's a very open mindedness when it comes to kind of troubleshooting issues. Like if you ask them, they will definitely tell you, and they'll help you out through every step of the way in the alcohol industry, at least, which I've seen, which is awesome. You know.
Yeah. That's the bigger question. Do you sleep at all?
You
You seem like you're working so much.
Yeah.
You seem like you love it so much,
Yeah.
but you're being stressed. Do you sleep at all?
I take some time,
Like
to
2
sleep.
hours,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah. I try and get as much exercise as I can. I spend time with my families and my friends as best as I can as well. But sleep is nominal at the most. I don't see it as an important thing in my life because I want to dedicate to 100 to 110% into this business. It's my baby. It's my first
Right.
baby.
Especially when you have help, obviously.
Yeah.
But when do you do the whole process
Mhm.
yourself of
Oh
the
yeah,
cider?
you got it
Right.
from start to finish. Yep, I order the products, I bring it in, I crush it, destem it, process it. I start fermentation, I filter, I fine, I cold stabilize, and I put it in a keg. Yep.
I'm sure someone's offered you help, right? Offered to help.
Yeah.
But
Kind
I
of.
know you, and you're just like, this is just the way I do it. This is how it works.
That's why I brought my cousin. I mean, he's a freshly 18-year-old, right out of high school.
Right out of high school.
Right out of high school. Last July, I grabbed him. I said, do you got anything going on at home? And he said, nope. So, all right, sounds good. You're going to be my slave for the next foreseeable future. And he's learning everything from production to working behind the bar, because he can serve in the state of Iowa. So a lot of personalities that you have to deal with, counting cash drawer to doing sales and distribution. So learning how to go from place to place to try and match personalities again on the other side to try and sell your product on the other side of the bar, which is totally different. And then going from each step, it's awesome. Learning that as an 18-year-old, whereas I'm learning this by myself as a 28-year-old is crazy. He's learned more than I've ever learned in not even a year. Seven months. Yeah. Yep, that's basically it. But he also helps out at the vineyard too. So he's mowing lawns, he's taking care of pruning during the winter. So both the agronomic side as well as the production food science side as well.
I know this might be in the weeds for some people, but kind of walk me through the process of how do you make your cider usually? And it's like,
I'll be as honest as possible, because again, I'll go on that.
I'm not telling you to. You don't have to give out secrets. You got some sort of secrets.
I have no secrets. I will tell you exactly how I make it, because it's so easy, in my opinion.
Well, now we're talking about how hard you work and how you're pounding the pavement and doing all this work, and you're like, well, cider in itself is super easy.
Well. Okay. So
the hustle is the hard part.
My style of cider making at the moment, again, I will be making different styles when it comes to like sours or bourbon barrel aging, or I've done a little bit of hopping, both boil hopping as well as dry hopping. But let's get to the basics. I take freshly pressed apple juice, or I take apples, and I would have to crush them. I have to grind them up into a mealy paste and squish them. That comes with a lot of juice, pulp, and all that other junk in there, as well as starches. So after that process, I have to break that down before I even ferment. So I take that and I use some type of, let's see, what is it? Pectinase to break that down so it's easier for the fermenting yeast to metabolize. Then I put that into a tank. Usually a stainless steel tank that's been cleaned and sanitized, and I make sure that that juice is ready to go. I have to do chemical analyses when it comes to pH, which is the measurement of total acids, as well as total acidity, which is citric, malic, and tartaric, and then our sugar levels to make sure that we have enough to make enough alcohol. After that, I pitch my yeast. It ferments, takes the sugars, converts into alcohol, and then I can either clarify it to make it crystal clear or filter it, and then I put it in a keg. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to do that, he just gave you all the answers.
There it is. That would be the condensed version. If you want me to expand on it, I can. But that would take probably the rest of the night.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it'd be better suited as like a video to show me how to do
absolutely.
it. So you currently have 55 flavors, right? Or
we've made 35. I guess commercially that we distribute through at least 4 counties in central Iowa through Confluence Brewing Company. They took us on in the past month, and they've been doing a great job at distributing us. But we currently distribute about 15 to 20 different accounts or brands, I guess, through them. It ranges from our original sweet, dry, or semi-sweet to like our Siren Seafoam Sparkles or the Black and Gold, which is a blackberry lemonade cider with activated charcoal in it.
Big fan.
Yes.
Big fan.
Yep.
It's actually
Me
very
too.
popular.
It is. It's very popular, especially with the Iowa City crowd. Even though I'm a Cyclone,
I just thought of that. How dare you?
I have to vote for both sides because it's pro Iowa over any other place.
That's what I say to that. He's not saying that.
I can't.
I gotta make that distinction.
can't
I gotta make the
alienate-
distinction.
I can't.
Have you thought? Okay, so you have all these different flavors.
Yes.
And like you talked about with El Bait Shop, it has this very specific flavor to
Right.
fit the vibe of what El Bait Shop is. You also have another one that you did a collaboration with, right? With Mistress Brewing
Right.
in Ankeny. Right?
Absolutely.
So what was that process like? Because that was your first collaboration, right?
Exactly. So before we even started thinking about collaborations, I was like, can I handle it? It's a lot of load on me, especially when I'm making all these custom flavors already for, I guess, whatever we've made. And then I add more flavors on top of that, and it's very specific towards the timing. I can't like pre-batch them. I have to like make them on demand for these people for certain times so they don't just sit. So I talked to their general manager and front of house manager, Madison Kaiser, because she brought us in. She was the first one to bring us into the Polk and Waukee area at Mistress up in Ankeny. And I said, I want to thank you for bringing us on because they're rolling through about 4 sixers a week, I think. So 6 5 gallons. So about 20 gallons of cider every week, but 4 different flavors. So it keeps everything light and fresh. And so I wanted it personalized not only to her, but she came up with this kind of collaboration between Sacrilegious Ciderworks and Mistress Brewing Company to come up with a cider called Mistress Lilith. And it has some backing in, I guess, Christian mythology, where it's Adam's first wife / girlfriend. And she was the one who, was kind of like the side piece.
I love that there's so much.
Yes.
There's so much mythology to just
It has to have layers, really, with each one of these personalized ciders.
Oh, I love it. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
And so she wanted something that was outside of the specs of Confluence because we wanted to make it an imperial cider, and by imperial we mean higher in alcohol. So we made it around 7%, and the flavor profile was going to be black currant and black raspberry. And so we did it, and she loves it, and the rest of the public of Ankeny loves it as well. So
It's another one I haven't tried yet.
I know you
I
gotta
gotta get
find
out
them.
more.
I guess so.
I just sit at home and talk to my computer. That's all I do.
We might have some in the car if you need some.
Well, there you go. I didn't just do this to get free cider. Okay,
I think
people.
I think you did.
No, I
Yeah.
did it because I'm your friend and I want to support your business.
How about a little bit of both?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
a little bit of
We'll meet halfway.
75% that you're my friend and I want to help you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
That's how I have to justify it. So you have all these flavors. Which one would you say absolute number one, like your favorite? Do you have one? I know it's like picking your children, but which one would it be?
Out of the ones that we distribute, or out of the ones I've ever made in the history of the 5 years
Ooh,
that I
boy.
make in cider?
Now we're getting broad.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say, for the sake of argument, the one that you have out in production right now.
I would say my favorite right now is our pineapple triple hopped dry cider.
That's Ashley's favorite.
No, she likes the pineapple citra hop.
Oh, what's the difference?
So triple hop uses 3 different kinds of hops. It uses Citra, Cascade, and Mosaic to add different types of qualities. So one has grapefruit, one has pineapple, and one has a little bit of like pininess, resinous flavor to it. And so it makes it really well-rounded when it comes to infusing into our cider. Since we do boil the cider in non-alcoholic apple juice, whereas if you dry hop, it's just flavor and no bitterness to it. So we wanted a lot of our ciders are very not tannic, so it doesn't have any mouthfeel. It's very like flat, I guess, when it comes to things, because you want to be able to keep drinking it. Whereas a lot of our clientele like IPAs and pale ales, so I wanted something that matches the beer guys, the heavy into the hops. So I was inspired by getting some hops from Midwest hop growers up in Plattsmouth, Nebraska, and I used some of their stuff, and it turned out fantastic. But it's very dry, so I did not add any sugar or apple juice to it or back sweetened it, so it's very dry. So absent of sugar, sweetness, and it has a very like fruity, piney flavor to it. So that is my favorite current cider that you can get in the market right now.
Okay. All time.
All time
Of all
is-
of them that
Okay,
you've
so at our vineyard, I guess we have a property that has about 160 acres of land That's out in the pasture fields of Glenwood, Iowa, and about, let's see, 7 acres of it is used for apples and grapes. We've been growing those for about 13 years, both the apples and the grapes, and that was kind of our start even before I could even drink. So it was when I was 15 or 16 years old. We planted apple trees that were specific for making hard cider, and those are the specific varieties called cider variety apples that don't taste good. They taste very terrible because they have tannins, they have high acidity, but low sugar. So if you would eat one of them, it would taste absolutely terrible, like a crab apple, really. We have a couple crab apple trees as well.
I've
So
never had a crab apple.
if
I know you were trying to
know.
level with me, but I
I'm
was like, I
trying
don't know.
to figure out the best thing. It's really like gross and tannic and bitter and nasty. But if you ferment the juice, it's amazing. So we have what's called Kingston Black, a classic European English style apple that we were able to purchase from, I think, New Hampshire, if I'm not mistaken. We got cuttings, put it in the ground, and they bloomed, and they have like this dark purple, like black color to the outside, and very full flavored. And you can actually make a single varietal cider out of it. So I did. I used a specific yeast called Porter's Perfection, and I fermented it in small 5-gallon carboys, glass carboys that you would use for like home brewing, and it was spectacular. And I drank it all, and it's all gone. And it will.
Did it even make it to market?
No.
You just drank it all yourself.
Yeah.
Do you do that often? Do you just make stuff just for you?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So that's a yes.
Yes,
that's very much
that's
a yes.
Big yes. Yeah. Most definitely.
So are you always thinking of new? Like you talked about it a little bit earlier. So you're always thinking of new flavors, new ideas.
Oh yes. Yep.
Okay. I've mentioned this before, but if you can work out something with like a peach mango,
You got it.
I'm your guy.
Okay.
I'll drink that all day.
So then, what are we going to call it? It needs layers.
It's got needs layers. Well, if you do it more of like a, I should probably just. You need to teach me how to do it, and I'll get in on it.
Okay.
Because I call it the beard, but it BEER apostrophe D beard.
Easy
There you
enough.
go. Put a flannel label on it. You know what I'm
There it
talking
is.
about? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I don't know. It doesn't really speak lumberjack or beard to me when I think of peach mango, but
That's okay.
I'm just selfish. I just really
I
want a
would
peach mango.
love to have you do it and produce it, and then we'll put it on draft at our winery.
I would love to do it.
Yeah.
I would just have to. How long does a process usually take?
Depends on how long you want to make it. Whatever. Do you want to lager it and keep it? I know. It's just getting into the
I'm
details.
saying you're looking at me, and I got the
Um,
blankest look on my face. Like
Let's
I
see.
don't.
The fastest to make it is 7 days.
Oh, so I got a week. Got to take off a week. Come down.
To and fro. So I would say you can start it, let it go, and then whenever you're ready, we'll put it in a keg.
All right.
You tell me how you want me to make it, and I'll make it.
Better, we should change the name. It can't be called Beard.
No.
It has to be like. Well, I'm trying to stay on brand with Loud and Opinionated. That's the loudandopinionated.com. It's the podcast network. We got to think it's something like Loud something.
Yeah.
Loud Mouth maybe. We're onto something.
Okay.
This is brainstorming.
Keep
right here,
brainstorming.
folks. This is bonus content.
I love it. Keep it going.
Loudmouth. I like the idea of doing the triple hop thing.
You got it.
And get more because I agree with you the idea of getting the beer guys in there.
Yes.
And that's again me being selfish because I'm a beer guy. So
right. Exactly. You have such a history in beer where you were a.
I was Cicerone certified
Yes.
because of my job required it to be when I
Right.
was a server. So I would not quote me now on like what's the proper pairings for beer and
That's
food.
okay.
But
It gives you certification and
back in the
legitimacy.
day, yeah. Which I'm sure that's probably expired by
That's
now.
okay. Things have changed, but you still got that classic sense of what people like for certain things. Yeah.
It would be interesting, mostly because I'm just trying to now I'm brainstorming my own
Good.
ideas.
That's all I'm trying to do is generate some content for you
There you
when
go.
it comes to cider or anything else. I like it.
Then loudmouth. We put a microphone on it.
Yeah.
Adds to the
Right.
well, it'd be a megaphone because our logo is a megaphone.
I
So-
want to ask you a question. Why peach and mango? That's my question.
Why do I
to you.
like peach mango so much? Oh goodness. I don't know. Well, it's funny because I talk about how I want it to be more of like a for beer guys, but
Yeah.
I'm also someone that likes the ciders that you have because I like the sweetness
Yeah.
of it. So I like the sugar of it.
Okay.
So I've always just liked the sweet peach flavor.
From what? That's what I want. The inspiration. Is it gummies? Is it cereal? Is it popsicles? Is it what is it?
I would say it'd probably be more of like peach tea, like juice.
Okay. I can
See,
add on
now
to that.
I'm starting to lose. Am I gaining you or am I losing you?
No, no. I have to keep adding the layers to it. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, it could be
Yeah.
black tea. So I'd use Lipton tea and then put some peaches in it, and then it would.
Now you're
age.
talking.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yep. Yep. If you want to add the mango onto it as well, you let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into this.
So-
I'm into it. I
Right.
want it. I want it.
If I'm gonna
right
do
now.
if I'm gonna do like ice cream inspired, then I may add vanilla to it or lactose sugar to make them creamier. So that's the kinds of things. It's not just the single flavor. It has to be where it came from and what your history it is, and that calling back to when you were a child. I want that. I want you to just close your eyes and think of a good time in your life when you're stressed out and you just take a sip. Oh,
I'm so upset that we're only doing audio because I
know.
wish people could see.
No one wants to look.
No, because the wheels are turning, man, and this is I can tell how much you love it because you're lighting up about it. You're like you're just so excited to talk about it.
I do. I love alcohol. Just every portion of it, whether it's the brewing, the drinking, and the stories that come along with the alcohol, of course, right?
Yeah, I mean that's why I really wanted to do this because there's so much more to brewers and the brewing process of beer, and there's like you said, there's always stories.
Yep.
So it's exciting. I hope I can get more people in to do this because I would love to do that
for sure.
But yeah. So All Time was the one that are you ever going to produce that for mass consumption?
The issue is I can't find the apples. If I could find them, I would make that all day, every day. Yeah, because then I would drink it all.
You can't get high on your own supply.
I will share my supply while getting high. As best as I can.
Okay, so I think we've covered everything. I think we're good. So yeah, your main goal at this point is to just keep cross Nebraska, Iowa. Have you ever thought of going other places in the Midwest? I'm not saying international. I
mean, at this
national,
point, the other biggest question outside of where can I find it is to get into cans. So we're working on getting into 12 and 16 ounce cans. So you can find it in your local grocery stores. That would be the next step up.
Like a Hy-Vee or
that would be the best place to find it. I mean, just because they have such a good craft selection at each Hy-Vee, or on other places it's Fairways. I mean, a lot of great places at grocery stores. Let's see what would be the next step is online sales. So not just from state to state. And then after that, I just want to take care of the places that have taken care of me. You know, keep that personal relationship between the places, as well as the people and the families and everything else. If I expand too far, then I'll stretch myself too thin. But I think
you're a very small crew. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, but if I could find a great partner, so if anybody's looking for a good partner for hard cider, I'm always down with talking about partnering up and investing. So yeah, I'm open.
Exciting. My dishes. I'm remembering one more thing I want to ask you when we were talking about flavors. So, do you have seasonal ideas rolling around in your head, or do you prefer just to have just rotating flavors in general, or do you want to do
yes and no
seasonal thing?
I guess. I mean, when it comes to the colder temperatures, people would probably want something on the higher alcohol side, but on the lighter side for the summer. But we offer them all the time because they're ciders, so they're all kind of light, and some of them are kind of dark. So yes and no at the same time. I know it's very confusing right now because I don't know my market. I don't know what people like. People like everything, and I think that's my issue right now. That's my biggest problem.
You're a people pleaser.
That people. You especially. People like too many of the flavors, so it definitely drowns them out when it comes to trying to figure out what they like. But with the way that I make the ciders, that it gives them so many options. So you can order 4 different ciders at the same time and just rotate. That's the best part. I want my cider to be as rotational as possible.
Flexible.
Yeah. I want it to be like, hey, I have to go to this one place to try this one cider and then go to the next place. So it keeps everything light. I can make sure that each one of the locations that has my ciders is making sure that they're getting certain people and then changing it out. I want people to go to each certain place and support the places that we support as well.
Drink local.
Yes.
Is what we're saying here.
Local. Keep
support
it in the local market, local state, local government, et cetera, et cetera.
And this will post Friday, May 10th. Are there any future things you're gonna be doing, tastings, things like that around Iowa,
I guess
Nebraska?
tomorrow it's going to be in Council Bluffs. Next week we have
So if you're listening to this on May 10th, Council Bluffs, where?
Council Bluffs at the Hy-Vee on Madison Avenue. We're going to be doing a tasting from 4 to 6
That
starting.
used to be my
Yeah,
Hy-Vee.
I know, right there, right in Jake's old neighborhood.
Old stomping grounds.
There it is. Trying to think of what else. I mean, we have 10 million events, so make sure you keep up to date with our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and
Very
all of our-
active.
Very active, making sure that all the pictures are pretty and Instagram worthy. So make sure you judge them and like them. And
So it's Sacrilegious Ciderworks on Facebook?
you got it. Sacrilegious Ciderworks. Same thing on Instagram and Twitter. And then our website is www.saccider.com. SACCIDER.
All right. And if you want to get it local, like go to Vine Street Cellars, where can they go to that? Is it Glenwood?
Absolutely. Glenwood at 17 North Vine Street, Glenwood, Iowa, 51534.
All right. Now here's the real test.
Yes.
All right. Where can they get your cider? All the places that you have your cider. Can you
Okay.
name them off? Do you have a list somewhere?
I don't have a list, but I can recite most of them from memory since I actually.
I kind of want to
visited
see the list so we can quiz them and see if we got it.
Oh,
But
God. Okay, so the first place is Vine Street Cellars in Glenwood.
Mhm.
The next one, right on the western side of the state, is Prairie Crossing Winery. Then we also have it at Trainer Recreational Area and the Black Squirrel in Council Bluffs. And then if we're looking at Central Iowa and Central Eastern, it's going to be both of the Cellar Peanut Pubs in Newton and Pella, the Hy-Vee Market Grill in Newton, Mistress Brewing Company in Ankeny, Confluence Brewing Company in Des Moines. Then we have it at El Bait Shop in downtown Des Moines, Truman's KC Pizza. The operating room is going to be taken on today or tomorrow.
Ooh,
yep,
that's
out in
exciting.
Waukee and West Des Moines.
One of the few bars I've been to.
I know it's an awesome video game bar.
It's fun.
It's crazy.
It's great.
It's
If you're in
cool.
Des Moines and you've never been to the operating room, go there because it's fun and you get to have some good cider.
Right, exactly. Let's see where else. Global Brews. They also have our Siren Seafoam Sparkles, as well as the operating room. We'll have that as well.
Love Global Brew.
Let's see what else. We're looking at that area. Bar 165 is our Pineapple Triple Hop Dry. Let's see this one that starts with a C that we went to today. Central Standard is going to have our Black and Gold very soon tomorrow.
Gives me more of a reason to go there. I've
Yep.
never been there. Heard it's great.
It's a great place. Cheese curds are the things.
Cheese curds are the thing,
I
apparently.
haven't eaten there, but I got to meet the manager. Great guys, great people.
I've
over
always
there.
wanted to go. Now I have more of the reason to go.
I know. So they're getting it in probably tomorrow. So sometime this weekend before they run out.
Oh boy, I better make a run for it.
I know. You better. Trying to think of other places. I think that's most of them. If I mistakenly
Do you close your eyes and you just see?
and of course, Keg Creek Brewing Company in
Oh,
Glenwood,
shit.
Iowa. Oh God, I'm so sorry, Keg Creek. Yep, you guys are my
Yes.
friends, my family. You've been there from the beginning. Yep, they have one of our ciders as our rotating guest cider tap over there. Trying to think anywhere else you think of, Cleo?
I don't. He's
Yeah.
he's giving me a no.
I know.
signal.
So yeah, that's most of the places. Just check them out.
All right. Well, I wouldn't have you on here if I didn't believe in your product, and
Thank you.
I didn't
Thank you.
believe in
Thank
your
you, Jim.
business, and I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah, me too.
Who knows? Maybe down the road we do it again.
Oh, most definitely. We'll keep you up to date. Bring me over.
Well, all right.
I'll
I'm
bring
all
some more
for it.
cider too.
All right. Well, have a good one, I
Yeah.
guess. I
Yeah,
don't know how
thanks,
to end
everybody.
this. It's been a while since I've done an interview.
It's awesome. I love it. I love these kinds of things now.
If
Thank
you had a glass, we
Yeah.
could clinky, but you don't have a glass.
I'll bring it in. We'll clink.
There
there it is.
Oh no, you got to do it into the mic. You gotta do it
Okay.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake.
All right, so there you go. Like I said, it's a pretty fun interview. I hope to do more of these in the future. You can follow us at Loud Opinionated on Facebook. You can follow us at Loud Opinionated on Twitter. You can also follow us on Instagram, Loud Opinionated Brand. And I'll be back next week for another solo episode. Again, I'm doing more stuff that's a little bit out of the norm than what I usually do, and I actually really enjoy doing that. So I'll see you guys next week. Be loud and be proud.